Hello and welcome to the CIBSE Journal CPD Module 256, Airflow Measurement and Sensor Technology in Healthcare Cleanrooms. This module explores the importance of accurate airflow measurement, data measurement, and sensor technology in critical healthcare ventilation applications. This module is sponsored by CMR. The very first requirement in a hospital is that it should do the sick no harm, a quotation by Florence Nightingale. The UK government spending review in June 2025 announced £750 million of funding for infrastructure repairs at more than 400 NHS hospitals, mental health units and ambulance sites. The opportunity exists to improve, where it is needed, ventilation systems across the healthcare estate. Preventing airborne contamination, ensuring patient and staff safety, maintaining medical product integrity, and achieving energy efficiency targets are essential outcomes from critical healthcare ventilation systems, or CHV. CHV systems are crucial for ensuring the safety of their respective areas. Health Technical Memoranda, HTMs, and specifically HTM 0301, Specialized Ventilation for Healthcare Premises, provide the authoritative guidance, and compliance is paramount. The areas defined by HTM 0301 as needing specialized critical ventilation because of high risk include ultra-clean ventilation systems, such as operating theatres, and isolation rooms, such as wards for patients with airborne infectious diseases. HTMs distinguish mandatory, legally binding requirements, or must, from key best practice recommendations, or should, that support their stringent standards. This guidance is critical for design, installation, operation, and maintenance, and is applicable across the entire building lifecycle. The HTMs establish a standardized approach for identifying and labeling ventilation systems, as well as developing an inventory of installed systems. The inventory will be arranged according to the following categories: local exhaust ventilation systems, or LEV, critical healthcare ventilation systems, or CHV, general ventilation systems, or GVS, general extract systems, or GES, and smoke clearance and heat exhaust systems, or SHEVS. The 2021 version of HTM 0301 introduced the concept of Ventilation Safety Group, VSG, in healthcare organisations, which oversees the management of the healthcare provider's ventilation systems and reports at board level. The HTM suggests a typical composition for a VSG to ensure the necessary expertise is brought together to manage ventilation risks. Disciplines in the Ventilation Safety Group, or VSG. The VSG should be a multidisciplinary group and typically comprise the following according to HTM 0301. Authorizing engineer or independent advisor for ventilation, infection prevention and control nurse or specialist, authorized person or persons from ventilation services, estates operations and project staff, clinicians and specialist departments, for example, theatres, critical care areas, pharmacy, medical microbiology, nursing and decontamination, personnel from finance department with accountability for capital and revenue evaluation, other stakeholders as appropriate, co-opted expertise, for example, ventilation designers, consultants and suppliers. The primary driver in CHV systems is mitigation of airborne infection risks, particularly in sensitive areas such as operating departments, critical care facilities, and isolation rooms. Airflow strategies in healthcare premises, positive pressure rooms, operating rooms, ICUs, and pharmaceutical compounding areas where sterile conditions are paramount, all require clean filtered air. Contamination of these spaces from ingress of contaminated air is prevented by maintaining space at positive pressure relative to adjacent spaces. This results in clean, filtered air moving outwards from the room, preventing contaminants from entering. Negative pressure rooms. In some situations, it is necessary to protect staff and other occupants against airborne organisms from patients with an infectious disease, for example, tuberculosis, COVID-19, measles, and chickenpox. The ventilation system is used to keep the room at a lower internal pressure to the surrounding spaces and draws air inwards, containing the pathogens within the room and protecting surrounding areas and staff. Dilution and scouring. Beyond pressure, precise airflow rates are essential for diluting airborne contaminants and efficiently scouring spaces. In ultra-clean ventilation or UCV operating theatres, high air velocity purges contaminants from the surgical zone, significantly reducing post-operative sepsis. This ensures staff operate in a clean airflow path and medicinal product integrity is protected. Energy efficiency. Modern designs use accurate measurement to optimize energy consumption, supporting net zero carbon targets through control strategies such as setting back systems, i.e. reducing output when not in full use. Poorly designed or maintained systems can become sources of microorganisms. Ventilation directly protects vulnerable patients from airborne organisms and fungal spores in rooms such as intensive care units and transplant units. It safeguards staff from anesthetic agents, microorganisms, and toxic substances. Controlled environments are vital in pharmacy aseptic preparation facilities and sterile services departments to ensure quality assurance and compliance with EU Good Manufacturing Practice, or GMP, which describes the minimum standard that a medicines manufacturer must meet in its production processes if its medicines are to be sold in the EU. Airflow measurement is mandated by legislation such as the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974 and the Control of Substances Hazardous to Health Regulations 2002, or COSH, COSHH, which requires statutory examination and testing of local exhaust ventilation at least every 14 months. Failure to maintain standards can lead to increased health risks and legal action. HCM 0301 states that all CHV systems will be inspected quarterly and verified at least annually. The purpose of verification is to determine if the system is performing to an acceptable level. Airflow and its measurements are clearly key to this annual verification, as well as the initial commissioning and the final acceptance validation. Critical sensors for ventilation systems. Sensors are the eyes and ears of a ventilation system, providing data for continuous monitoring, automatic control, alarm generation, and data logging within the Environmental Monitoring System, or EMS, which works independently using independent sensors in parallel with the Building Management System, or BMS. The accurate measurement of the quantity and condition of the air is crucial to maintaining the performance of the system and hence its role in infection control. The EMS sensors are calibrated to the appropriate standard and must have valid calibration certificates. The air change rate is a crucial metric in healthcare ventilation. Accurate measurement and verification are essential to ensure compliance with required standards for each space. This will also be key to maintaining pressure differentials required between spaces. Sensors are essential for collecting this data and must be calibrated to the appropriate standards. Differential pressure sensors. These are fundamental for recording or indicating air pressure differentials between adjacent rooms, crucial for contamination control. They verify positive pressure in sterile areas, for example, operating theatres, and negative pressure in isolation rooms. The sensor has two ports connected by small tubes to the spaces being compared. It continuously monitors the pressure differential and sends a signal to the EMS. If the pressure deviates from the required set point, often around 10 to 15 pascals positive pressure, alarms can alert the operators. The maintenance team shall be alerted to rectify the automatic control system. For example, HTMO 301 states that they should be used to indicate to operating theatre control panel if the ultra-clean ventilation or UCV canopy falls below 80% of its designed flow rate. Direct reading Magnehelic mechanical gauges with green and red indicators for differential pressure ranges are required at critical points. Electronic pressure transducers, such as those manufactured by CMR Controls, are sensors that convert the force exerted by the air into measurable electrical signals, voltage and/or current and/or digital. They feed continuous data to the EMS for automated monitoring, plant failure, low airflow, and filter fault alarms. Plant failure and low airflow alarms should be indicated when the air quantity falls below 80% of the design value. Airflow, volume, and velocity sensors. These are electronic devices that measure and quantify the movement of air, providing the critical data needed to monitor, manage, control, and optimize ventilation and process systems. These are essential for measuring airflow, air volume, and velocity in systems, and to ensure adequate dilution and scouring in spaces. In UCV theatres, they confirm the high air velocity needed to purge surgical zones. It is normally expressed as air change rate. Methods of measuring velocity include veloprobes, flow grids, pitot tubes, and manometers for ducts, thermal anemometers for precise velocity, and calibrated hoods or bolometers for terminal air volumes. HTMO 301 states that ventilation system performance should be measured at the main and branch duct test points with either a pitot tube or a thermal manometer. Accurate and meaningful duct measurements depend on using the correct method, including proper spacing of and the appropriate number of measurements across the ductwork cross-section. It is essential to fully recognize this, as inaccurate data collection may result in and subsequently hinder the identification of performance issues. CPD Module 61 and 235 give more background on in-duct measurements in ventilation systems. Plug and electronically commutated or EC fans often have a measuring ring for direct output readings. Temperature sensors. These monitor room and supply air temperatures to maintain comfort and prevent detrimental conditions for patients or equipment. Actively ventilated sensors are preferred in critical areas such as operating theatres. In these situations, the sensors would be located in a sampling duct mounted on or adjacent to the theatre control panel, or in one of the theatre's low-level extract ducts. Humidity sensors. These monitor relative humidity to prevent condensation and mold growth and maintain specific environmental conditions. While acknowledged as prone to inaccuracy, they are important for applications such as pharmacy cleanrooms. Clearly, the accuracy of the instrumentation and its correct placement in the ventilation system is key to delivering the required performance standards. Commissioning, validation, and control. The VSG's remit includes the commissioning and validation processes for ventilation systems. Proper commissioning and validation are essential for ensuring that systems function effectively to support patient and staff safety. Sensor data is vital for commissioning, which brings systems to an operating condition, ensuring they meet design specifications and fall within their range of acceptable tolerances. The measurement equipment should have valid calibration certificates that are traceable to the appropriate standard. HTMO 301 reinforces the point that in-duct measurement positions should be identified at the design stage. This should result in the correct placing of testing and measurement devices, resulting in accurate measurement. These positions will need to be accessible for commissioning and annual verification to the system performance. Addressing these issues during design ensures precise placement of measurement facilities. Independent validation is undertaken on the completion of the commissioning process. Independent validation assesses the fitness for purpose as a whole of the entire installation, including building fabric and system performance. It is important to note that the validation process is not a snagging type exercise. The system offered for validation is done so on the basis that it is fully complete, commissioned, and achieving the required performance. The validator needs to be a suitably qualified, competent engineer and independent of the system designers, contractors, suppliers, installers, and commissioners. Calibration certificates must be issued to verify the accuracy. The records on system performance generated during the validation process and the ongoing information from the annual validation are a legal requirement. The information needs to be in a form that can be readily accessed. HDMO 301 Part A, Section 13 gives details of the required information to be stored and recorded. Independent of the EMS sensors, ventilation system sensors enable real-time control adjustments via BMS and can trigger alarms for plant failure or low airflow. This can ensure ongoing safety and efficient operation in live time, further supporting the delivery of patient and staff safety beyond the essential annual verification process. Updating and managing healthcare ventilation infrastructure. Simon Everett's research paper examines the difficulties involved in managing legacy ventilation systems within current healthcare estates. His paper gives a good overview of the situations faced by estates teams, including financial limitations, how to prioritize upgrades, the importance of the annual verification reports, and the overseeing of the ventilation systems by the VSG. The paper makes the point that if the annual verification indicates the system is not performing to the required standard and hence should not be returned to service as the HDM states, then this should generally not be a surprise to the senior leaders in the healthcare organisation, although he states it often is, as the VSG should be aware of ongoing life cycle issues and have mitigation measures in place. The reliable acquisition of accurate airflow measurement data verifiable by traceable calibration certificates is fundamental to the function and management of CHV systems. Accurate data will support ongoing work and management to ensure patient and staff safety, maintaining medical product integrity and achieving energy efficiency targets, the essential outcomes from CHV. Ultimately, precise airflow data underpins patient safety, operational efficiency, and compliance. Copyright Gordon Hudson 2025. With the building services industry undergoing a paradigm shift as it strives to improve the energy efficiency of new and existing buildings and make them inherently safer, members of CIBSE need to focus their learning and development on key industry issues. Members of CIBSE and other professional bodies are required to maintain their professional competence throughout their careers. Please visit the link in the description should you wish to obtain a certificate to keep on your CPD record.